David Coale, appellate lawyer in Dallas. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it. As you know, the House General Investigating Committee is recommending 20 articles of impeachment against Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton. First, let me just get your reaction. You've seen these articles of impeachment. What are your thoughts?
Well, it's something we rarely see in our Texas politics, as rough and tumble as it can be. This has only happened twice in the entire history of our state. Last time it happened was in the 1970s, and never to an attorney general. So we're seeing something here that's really unprecedented, even in our Texas politics, with as gloriously complicated and hard fought as its struggles can be.
And so now that the House General Investigating Committee has made these recommendations, the House is going to vote on this at some point. And so how is this going to work as far as a simple majority is required to impeach him, or do they need a 2/3 majority?
Right. So this is like any other measure that the House passes. It simply requires a majority vote to advance. The immediate procedural question in front of the House, which is very busy right now with the legislative term ending, is how much time to allot to this in the current schedule that they're operating under. How much debate are they going to have? How much discussion is going to unfold? That's for the speaker to decide. But at some point, a majority up-down vote needs to happen in the House. If that vote is yes, to accept the articles of impeachment and proceed with them, then the impeachment matter proceeds to the Senate under our state constitution for a trial there.
And so what happens in the Senate? Because there they do need a 2/3 majority, and they have to be impartial. So let's discuss all that.
Yeah, so the Senate has to dust off the rule book for one thing. It hasn't done this in 50 plus years, so it has to kind of refresh its memory. But the Constitution tells them that a decision that they make about impeachment, if it is to remove someone from office, has to be by a 2/3 vote of the senators who participate. That's at the end of the session. At the beginning of the session, it says that each senator has to take a new oath in addition to one that they took when they became an officer of the state and a senator in the legislature, to be an impartial juror, for lack of a better word, of the case that they are going to hear, the impeachment case. And so that raises an immediate question: is Angela Paxton going to try to take the oath to be impartial as to a case where her husband is going to be the subject of that trial, the discussion of whether or not to remove him from office? We don't know the answer to that. There's a pretty good argument that says she cannot take an oath to be impartial and would thus recuse herself from the proceeding. One way or another, that will be resolved. A number of senators will then proceed to hear the evidence. They must be there for the entire session, according to our state constitution. And at the end of the day, there'll be a vote, 2/3 vote for the impeachment. Mr. Paxton will be removed from office. Less than 2/3, it dies on the vine and goes away.
So let's talk about that, because you mentioned Angela Paxton, who is a senator from Collin County. And as you mentioned, she is the wife of Attorney General Ken Paxton. So there really is no way she could be impartial. Isn't that right, under state law?
It certainly looks that way. I mean, the statutes, the Constitution commands each senator who will sit in the impeachment proceeding to take an oath to be impartial as to what they're going to hear and how they cast their vote. And there's a pretty good argument that if your husband, an immediate family member, is on trial, you cannot be impartial. In, for example, a jury trial, a criminal jury trial in the state, you could not sit on a jury where a family member was the defendant. You're automatically disqualified. So I suppose there may be some room for argument there. She may say, I can try to be impartial, but the law is pretty well accepted that you just can't be impartial in certain situations. And as a matter of law, you may not proceed to take the oath in that situation.
Now, does the senator have to sit there and participate aside from Senator Paxton? Could somebody decide, hey, I can't be impartial, so therefore I'm not going to sit through this?
All senators who take the oath to be there for the entire proceedings. We saw this in the U.S. Congress during the impeachments of President Trump. They all were there, every single one of them, even the ones running for president, like Elizabeth Warren. Some were paying more attention than others, but they were all there and in the room during those proceedings. I suppose if there were senators that just didn't want to show up for some reason, then you could imagine the presiding officer of the Senate sending out the highway patrol to go get them and bring them there. And we've had little dramas like that in the past when various members of the legislature have not shown up to vote on various laws. I expect we won't have that kind of drama here. I think the people of Texas expect their representatives to show up when the Constitution tells them to.
So let's talk about what the options are for the Attorney General. Could he go to a court and try to block an impeachment vote in the House?
He can certainly try. The laws on this are not the most carefully thought through that we've had in Texas, because this just doesn't come up very often. And there's a provision in the government code, the sections that lay out the procedure by which impeachment works, that says you cannot be removed from office if the conduct, it's the basis of the impeachment, arose before the election that put you into office. And the Attorney General Paxton is well aware of that provision. His office has said, I was duly elected recently by a majority of Texas voters. All these things that are in the articles of impeachment were out there for the public to decide, and they rejected them, and they returned me to office. So he is likely to cite that